You saw what the Pentagon said. They do not want Ukraine to use US-provided weapons to strike deep into Russia because of why? They're worried that it's going to escalate things with Russia and have Russia look at the United States and say, well, you let them do this, and so we're coming after you. And this has sparked a major debate here in the United States because you've got people on one side who are agreeing with Ukraine, saying that, hey, look, yeah, they should be able to strike deep and take out the Russian targets, while you've got people here in the US saying, but at the same time, we really don't want to fight Russia. And so I figured, let's talk about both sides here, because when I say that the world, or at least the United States, are kind of divided on this, they 100% are. I've asked many of my friends and family, and the different answers you get are quite interesting. So let's break down exactly what's happening here. Well, it was a few weeks ago where Zelensky said that they need X amount of air defense systems in order to cover really the most important parts of Ukraine. At the same time, about a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago, he says, look, we know exactly where Russia has all of their launchers for all of their rockets. We know where they're taking off from, the airports. We know where they store all of their aircraft. We know where the ammunition are. So why is it that we cannot go deeper into Russia? Because if we were to take US weapons and strike those areas, we could stop Russia at the source. Because the alternative is, if we're not taking out where this is happening from, we then need more air defense systems in Ukraine to stop the attack from happening, which is only putting a band-aid on the situation, because you're not stopping the Russians, you're just stopping the attack instead of going at the source. And from that point of view, it makes 100% sense to take out Russia where they're launching things from. Because once again, you could stop things from the source and it would save Ukrainian lives. From the Pentagon's point of view, they're saying, okay, while that might save lives, it might cause an issue with Russia and the United States. Remember that the US, they've been tiptoeing for the past over 2 years now with giving stuff to Ukraine. Always about 3 to 6 months behind schedule. They always give things to Ukraine when it's gotten to the point to where it's too late. The damage has already been done. Ukraine needed it at that very moment. And you're probably saying, wait a minute. In those 2.5 years, hasn't Ukraine proven themselves to pretty much go with every stupid rule that the US has thrown at them? You know, don't fire this, don't fire that. You can attack this, but don't do this, don't do this, but you can do that. Ukraine has taken every single rule that not only the US has thrown at them, but also other countries, and followed them to a T. To where countries should look at Ukraine and go, wow, these guys, we're giving them stuff, and they're actually listening to us, and when we tell them not to do something, they're following that. That trust has now been built for over 2 years, to where Ukraine has only done the right things. While Russia, on the other hand, they still target children's hospitals, power plants, and other civilian infrastructure that they're not supposed to. And that puts us in a situation to where it's like, okay, US, if you know that Russia's going to keep doing this stuff, and there's no consequences for them, what's going to have them to stop? They're not going to, because there is no response, and Ukraine can't give that response because you won't let Ukraine give those weapons. And I understand one little thing is the fear that Russia could attack the United States. But if anything we've learned, Russia cannot afford to attack the United States or any other country for that matter. We've seen countless empty threats, false flag operations, and other things signaling that Russia only has threats. They don't have anything else at this time. And sure, they give that nuclear, hey, we got this, we got that, we could do this, we could do that. But at the end of the day, Russia's never acted on anything, nor do we even think they have the capabilities. Out of the, I want to say, 1,400 nukes that they have, that number, by the way, we really, truly don't really know what works. Out of that, 1,400, how many are actually usable? How many of them are something that Russia can actually put in the sky and would actually work? And so when it comes to these threats, European countries are starting to get fed up by it because they know that Russia isn't going to act on it. And especially someone like the United States, where we're so far away that Russia would not act. There's no way they would act unless they made their way over to like Alaska, which, okay, I mean, we're kind of connected there anyway. So it once again leaves the question, does the Pentagon change its stance and say, Ukraine, do what you have to do, we trust you? Do they stick to their guns and say, hey, you know what, we're not going to let you do that, but they also have to understand it's going to cost them a lot more money? And I want you to think about this for a second. If Ukraine was given, let's just say, 60 or even 75 ATACMS, okay, or other kind of long-range weapons, if Ukraine were to get those and could target those Russian institutions or whatever, it would save the U.S. a lot of money because then they wouldn't need as many air defense systems going to Ukraine. They wouldn't need as many weapons going to Ukraine. And some people in the comment sections have been saying, well, yeah, the United States, they don't want this to end because other countries are buying contracts through the United States military industry, which is making the U.S. a lot of money. And so people are pointing at the fact that the U.S. doesn't want to give longer weapons to Ukraine, not because of the threat that they are potentially going to get attacked by Russia, but instead is the fact that they're making way too much money on this ordeal. And I hate to be that guy who kind of blatantly tells you it, but every country in Europe and the United States are making money on this. Whether it is transferring equipment to Ukraine and getting something in return, whether it is looking at the frozen Russian assets and saying, well, we can let Ukraine use the, whether it be the interest on that or something else, we can have them use that, but only be able to spend it in our countries in certain areas, or there's other contracts that Ukraine is able to buy through these other countries. So it's like every country is finding ways to make money. The U.S. being the number one making money. Germany, I think, is coming in second. I mean, look at Rheinmetall. They have almost every single contract through 2023? Something like that. And so there's a lot of things that are going around. I really want to go right back to my main point, is that as a country here in the United States, Americans are divided. First, you have to understand something. Every single American wants Ukraine to win. Okay? When you're reading the comment section, especially on my TikTok account, all that are Russian bots. Ignore that stuff. We know the Russian bots are trolls because all the data shows they're coming from different countries in Africa, the same ones where Russia has a lot of their farms for this kind of stuff. But every single American wants Ukraine to win this. Okay? And you also have to go back to the original Soviet days. The U.S. has always hated Russia. And deep down inside, we all don't want Russia to be there, if you kind of catch our drift. And so that's not the issue here. It's not a support thing. It's how do we do this with giving Ukraine what they need, but also not put our lives at risk, which I think just allowing Ukraine to strike deep in there would be the best thing to do it. The United States has so much military gear out there that even if Russia wanted to try something, that goes up, Article 5 goes out, and, Russia would, and Putin would kind of sit down very quickly. But as we're seeing, Ukraine take out every little thing that Russia puts out. I mean, they just destroyed another S-300, I think, in Crimea today. And Russia's putting men through the meat grinder. On the ground, Russia, when they throw men down there, they're not even caring about their lives. And that's because Russia knows they don't have the technology. And so Ukrainians are able to go through this and take down those Russians, but it's at a big Russian cost. And I think that if Russia had to do this on a larger scale, they would never win. And that's why I think the threats that Russia are giving are nothing to be worried about. It's one of those things where Ukraine should be able to strike those things because they're all, and I mean all of them, are targets. And as long as they're sticking to only military targets and can prove that they're only military targets, or even come to the U.S. and be like, look, on this map, this is over here. Here's satellite imagery from 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago. This is here. Let's hit that. Let's do that. Then we have a different story. Now, the only other thing I want to end you with is the fact that we are learning out that the United States and other countries are working on a certain weapon for Ukraine, which could be used for long-range weapons or attacks. And The question is that, okay, if you're making that for Ukraine, does that mean they could use that weapon to strike deep? If so, then let's develop this thing and get it to Ukraine as fast as possible. And maybe that's another reason why the U.S. is kind of sitting there trying to figure out what to do without being involved, but also being involved, helping but not helping. Because if Ukraine can develop a weapon with the help from the U.S. and Europe to go, I think it was, don't quote me, it was maybe 1,500 kilometers. I could be wrong, maybe 3,000. I don't really remember. Don't quote me on that. But if that could happen, that means it's a weapon that Ukraine has developed with some help and is going to be built in Ukraine for Ukrainians. Then yeah, that could be used. And the hope is that even though they announced that just recently, it's something they've been working on in quite some time, and so they can finally get that going in the very near future. But I want to know what you think about this. Which side are you on? Are you A, give long-range weapons to Ukraine, or B, more air defense systems to Ukraine? It's not a question, by the way, of, a supporting question. It's how to support Ukraine. Which one is the better? I think, once again, it is letting Ukraine strike these Russian targets. That's just my honest opinion. You let me know yours in the comment section below, and if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe, turn on notifications, and give this video a thumbs up. I'm Joey. Stay safe.